My man Bradley, take me back when you first got started in real estate. How was that? And then where you're at now.
The very first deal, my tenant got murdered. Long story short, lost every penny of that deal and had to give that property back to the land bank. To now being a successful real estate investor, owning real estate brokerage, and understanding real estate more so than just throwing money at things that sounded appealing.
My man, we're going to dive into all that. This is Jesse Ray, Growth House Podcast. I'm honored to have you on the show. Before we kind of talk about like who you are and what you've been up to, you've been a huge inspiration for me. I know I DM'd you and let you know that. So House Hacking Success is you're a podcast host and that's your podcast. I've met some of my best friends through that podcast and also it really inspired me before I even owned a house. And I knew I was going to do house hacking. I started searching, house hacking on podcasts, on Google, and yours was one of the first ones that came up. So I just want to say, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you listening. I genuinely appreciate you DMing, reaching out. It means a lot to us. What I'd like to talk about is it where we are now isn't where we started, and I'm a very slow but sure type person. That's my nature, and things start to snowball. We do own a real estate brokerage, Keller Williams franchise. We have 20 real estate agents. We sell a fair amount in our market. One of the top teams, and we do have a variety of investments now, ranging from commercial, multifamily, residential, multifamily. We have some land holdings. We have long-term rentals. We have duplexes and tries and fours and such. And then we do have a flipping company, and we have a construction company that is primarily focused on what we do. So we raise capital, which funds the construction company, but we have full control of quality and timing to get our projects done. So that's what kind of separates us in the marketplace from being able to take on. We'll get into it, but our most recent commercial apartment complex, we were able to gut, renovate, and put a brand new set of tenants in 90 days, which we were really, really proud of. Anyways, all of that. Comes at, it takes time to build and you really have to have great people and partners and stuff. But it didn't start that way. And that's what I usually like to talk about most because I feel like a lot of people like to talk about the glamorous side of things. And for me, I like to be real. I like to get down in the weeds with people because there's never a good time to, there's never a perceived good time to buy. 10 years ago when I first started, there was their own reasons on TV why it wasn't a good time to buy. In retrospect, that sounds funny to people probably that's sitting there thinking about making their first investment because now it's interest rates and high property values and all of that. But
there's always going to be a reason, always going to be an excuse. So true.
Yeah. So I like to start there.
Well, let's start there. So first property, before you even like go into the details on that first property, why'd you even get started in real estate? Like who inspired you? What inspired you?
The very first one, I don't know that anyone really inspired me. It sounded cool. And after I got out of college, I got into hard labor. I was working for construction companies, just kind of figuring out what I want to do with a career before that. So I had a little bit of a sense for being handy and figuring things out and that sort of thing. So it sounded cool. It was in Flint, like the month after the water crisis. So, there were literally properties going for $100, at the courthouse steps back then. And so, I traded something like a mid 90s truck that we had, and promised to pay the back taxes and water bill and whatever for this house. So basically got into it for nothing. Put probably 15,000 of material into it because they had, people would go in there and they cut out all the copper pipes. They took out all the copper from all the electrical, so they pulled all the electrical out. So, anyways, it was a labor of love, with 15 grand and probably 6 months of true sweat equity. So proud. I was proud of kind of what that took to do it and. Probably, if I were to look at it now, we probably did a really crappy job on the rehab, but we got it livable, right? And we got, had heat and all the essentials, whatever, right? And yeah, still don't fully understand what happened, but I believe the girlfriend of the tenant murdered this person, carried him from somewhere to the living room couch. And then, anyway, long story short, I mean, it was the wildest thing, but ended up being deemed a suicide, and the 3-month-old pit bull mauled his face off, which, you know, whatever. But, you know, it was a wild situation. And then in the meantime, while the police department had it yellow taped off and all this, they're doing an investigation, someone broke back in and took out all the plumbing and took out all the electrical again.
Oh my God.
So that whole combination was like this. That's it. I mean, so we, essentially handed the keys back to the land bank, and that's where my investing journey really began. Because at that time, I had to do a gut check. Am I gonna give up and do what a lot of people do and say this doesn't work, or this is only for rich people, or it takes money to make money, or all these kind of things, or am I going to figure out how to actually be a real player and be the real deal? So that's when I really started reading, because up until that time, I don't know that I ever really read a book. I
Mm.
mean, maybe I did, but I never really like actually read a book to actually get somewhere, right? And so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which a lot of people start with. That's one of the
Mhm.
first ones I remember, and then it kind of spiraled from there. And
So you read that book after all the chaos and
after the
losing.
chaos, yep,
So let me just ask you, because like you said, you decided that you want to be a real player and get into it, but at the end of the day, people complain about, man, I don't want to be a landlord because I'll have to fix a toilet at 3 o'clock in the morning, which we know rarely happens.
sure.
But at the end of the day, like, people are scared of that, and you went probably through one of the most horrific experiences as a first-time landlord. What motivated you to keep going, or why did you even decide, like, no, I actually want to keep doing this?
Yeah, I've been asked that a few times, but honestly, I was dumb enough to not ever really think about things. I played football I played in college, and it's always instilled with you in sports. And one of the reasons why I enjoy spending some of my time giving back now is like, it's specifically in football, because that's what after every whistle, you get up and you play the next play. You might have had a horrific penalty. You might have cost your team a touchdown. You might have done whatever it was on that play. You get back up and you play that next play every single time, right? So I think in retrospect, that was just the mentality I had. So I never thought about it. I never contemplated, oh, should I do this? Shouldn't I? I just decided, okay, let's figure out how to do it a different way. So, um, it wasn't that, I didn't think that much back then. It wasn't that, mysterious or whatever. I just, I got up, I did another snap. I bought a house to live in, a traditional home.
Mhm.
Took me about 10 months, bought it from the bank, did a full kind of rehab, but I did a majority of the work. I was working a full-time job, and then I'd work, so I switched myself to second shift. So I'd go into work at 3, get off at 11. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., work until 2 p.m., and then go into work. So I did that for 9 months to do this house. Made probably not a lot compared to like what it takes to get somebody into flipping now, but I made enough for it to kind of go into the next one. And then I did my first true house hack, which was a 203K with a 3 unit turned into a 4 unit.
Let's
And
break
then
that one down. Let's break that down.
yeah. And then,
So yeah.
just to wrap this up before we get back to it, and then it just kind of, and then you start to get the hang of it, but I guess the
Mhm.
point is like, you have to, and that's why to me, from personal experience, regardless of what's going on in the market, because back then, it's probably much better time in retrospect to invest than now because of the prices and stuff. But like, to me, it was all about getting that first single, because I probably
Mhm.
only made 15 or 20 grand tops on that flip, which is a lot of money for somebody starting out or whatever, but like, it's not really that much money. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You pay tax on it and all this kind of stuff. So, but it proved concept for me.
So
And without proof of concept, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So if someone's out there and they're actually trying to, you know, get to, and again, I don't even like to say it like I'm where I need to be, but like if they want to get to a place where they feel like they're a real, long-term investor, they're going to have a portfolio, they want to retire early, it has to start with that first one, and you have to prove to yourself proof of concept. So that's
Mhm.
why I start small, hit a base hit, get something that is going to work for you, and then you'll eventually graduate to the point where you are a true investor. You're moving markets, you're doing cash only, no inspections, all that kind of stuff that we'll talk about with my journey. But without that first proof of concept, I wouldn't be here.
Let's go to that first house hack. Why
Yeah.
did you decide to do house hack, and what did that look like?
You know, I can't remember if I actually read Brandon Turner's book first or I just was stupid enough to do it. I'm pretty sure I was stupid enough to do it
Yeah.
because I somehow figured out what 203K was.
Yeah, what is that?
And yeah, so it's FHA 203K is just a renovation loan by FHA. And there are several renovation loans. Fannie Mae has one. It's called Home Possible, I believe. VA has one. Anyways, there's several different, but it's where you buy a house. It's not the FHA standards. They give you the money to do the remodel, and then you move in, and it's FHA compliant, and you're at 3.5% down to the total. So if you're buying something for 300 and you need 100 grand and you're all in 400, you're paying 3.5 of 400 grand, right? So that's kind of so. So that's what we did, and I back then I still didn't know anything, and so I had talked to someone and a lender, and he's like, oh yeah, I know what those are, and oh yeah, those are easy, no big deal. It took like 5 months to close or something stupid like that because he had no idea what he was doing, and just everyone involved had no idea what was going on. It was a mess, but each bump and bruise you learn something from, and now they're really a very simple process if people know what they're doing. And I really enjoy helping people, that genuinely want to do that. I think it's a great loan. But anyway, so for us, we basically gutted the whole thing. It had a boiler system. We ripped that out, put forced air, AC, all new furnaces for each unit. Like I said, we added a whole fourth unit. I actually had to do that outside of the FHA because that would have been way too much red tape. So I paid for that myself. And then FHA paid to remodel the 3 units that were existing, but turned it into a 4 unit. In retrospect, I probably could have and should have done the 4th one in the loan, but you don't know what you don't know. And I guess back then I was always scared of the government or not even the government, like the building inspector. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the big bad boogeyman, is what everyone talks about. And so I was like, oh man, I'll just, this is kind of already here. I'll just kind of do it myself. So, but in retrospect, it would have been super simple and easy to just, so anyways, we were able to make that happen. And, we still own that property today and learned a lot from it. Would have done a lot of things different, now in retrospect, but you live and you learn. And, and then right after that, we moved to a duplex. We bought a duplex. It was the first time I did a loan for the down payment. So that was another learning step for me. Well, actually, I think I flipped the house in the meantime. Yeah, I flipped a couple. Anyway, but the next house we house hacked, moved into a duplex, and this guy came to me that was a friend of mine and a partner in one of the flips we did, and in the meantime and all this, and he goes, "Hey, I want to sell one of my duplexes. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want it, 100%." And he goes, "Okay, you want to go get a mortgage?" And I'm like, "Shit, I just refinanced the 4 unit out of FHA to conventional, to drop, so I could drop PMI, all the stuff that you hear about." And so I'm like, would you do a short-term land contract? And he's like, well, I want to make this outdoor storage facility that I end up buying. At the time I had no interest in it, but I end up buying this. I own it now. But he goes, I want to, it's going to cost me 30 grand to do the initial down payment for them to get started back there. Blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, I'll come up with 30 grand. You hold the note for 10 months and I'll refinance you out when I can refinance. So that's what I did. And I bought it. And it was the first time I did no money down because I borrowed the 30 and I, did a land contract with him. And then at the 10 months,
I've never done a land contract. And I think a lot of people
seller.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Seller finance.
Okay.
So it's, it's kind of the wild, wild west because you can negotiate whatever 2 people agree on.
Yeah.
But honestly, I have no idea what the interest rate was. I have a bad memory sometimes, it seems like so long ago. It wasn't really that long ago, but it was probably something like 6% interest, 10 months, whatever a normal payment would be. And then I owed him the balance at 10 months. So I had a $30,000 note. I owed him whatever that balance was. And then I ended up getting the house to appraise because we did a little bit of work at whatever the higher price was. So I was able to cash out the 30,000 and the land contract and get a traditional conventional mortgage, which my wife and I still live in that duplex today. We're about to finally move, and we bought a new house a couple months ago. But
That's amazing. So I want to pause real quick.
yeah,
So you were working a job, you were
yep,
also flipping houses,
yep,
and probably also doing some little remodel on the houses that you currently lived in.
yeah.
How old were you at this time?
So the first one was 20. I was 20 when
20
I
years
when I
old. Okay,
lost
yep.
that house. I had just turned 22 when I bought that first proof of concept house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the 4 unit was I think late 2016, if I remember correctly. When I bought it, so I would have been um 23 or 24, something like that.
Ladies
Um,
and gentlemen, this is not I think we talked about this earlier. It's not an old rich person's game. Like, we
right,
can get into this and get properties early. I think I had a misconception coming into it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get into real estate, but I'm gonna need 100 grand. I don't know where I got that number from, but I
right,
literally saved for like 3.5, 4 years working a sales job, got the 100 grand, and then started looking and investing. So
sure,
for people who have that perception like I did, what can you tell them, especially in like today's market? What do you really need?
man. I tell people two things. I
Mm,
tell them, if you don't want to do this for 50 years, never start. Just
mm,
don't even start unless if you want to buy a house and house hack to lower your expenses and all that. Phenomenal. But everyone wants to be a real estate investor because everyone thinks it's super sexy, and it's honestly the least sexy thing in the world if you do it right.
mm,
Um, and so I just see so many people. I was on there's somebody that's a national bestseller book writer, and I help him out with one of his courses because he's a good friend of mine. And I never forget. It was just like 2 weeks ago. I was in his little mastermind, and somebody was in there that had just bought a house, and he goes, or he'd end it for 2 or 3 years, and he goes, you know what? I just don't think this house is contributing to my goals. It's making 400 a month in cash flow. It's almost doubled in value since I bought it. But I just don't feel like it's contributing to my goals. And I'll never forget that because it's like very, very few people have the actual intestinal fortitude and longevity to actually
mhm,
be a true real estate investor because it isn't always easy. It is very challenging. And it is way simpler to invest in the stock market or invest in, cryptocurrencies or whatever you decide to do because you can
mhm,
get in and you can get out. In real estate, it's a long-term play. And the actual benefits I tell people all the time of actually investing in real estate isn't cash flow to me. It's be a high income earner, depreciate your income against these assets with bonus depreciation and all the benefits of depreciating in real estate. Cash flow and the increase in value by appreciation, those are the bonuses. I mean, of course you want cash flow,
mhm,
but
mhm,
there's just very few people, if you're going to do a short period of time and you're young, you're going to actually be able to replicate your income and then take your foot off the gas and just expect to live off of it. Because there's, as
mhm,
you know, I mean, there's, you have roofs, you have tenant turnovers, you have, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to really keep an asset as a quality asset and continue to reinvest in it, I just think it's such a BS bill of sale that people sell of like live off cash flow, retire early. It's not
mhm,
that getting the cash flow like you get the cash flow, it replicates your W2 income, and then it transitions you into something you're inspired about and you're pumped about, and you get to do it every single day. Right?
exactly.
That's what it actually is. But if people just think they're going to go sit on the beach with a few rentals, I don't know. There aren't very many people that could actually do it
Mhm.
because it costs money, and anyway. So it's just
No, no,
I
no.
just tell
This
people
is
like,
this is so good, and let's stay on this topic for a little bit longer, because this is something that I talk about with my investor friends who hit that, FI number, that financial independence. Let's say it's, you're young, maybe you're just single guy. That's $5,000, $6,000 that takes care of your bare necessities, right? But then
right,
what? You're not gonna be able to buy more properties. And guess what? I just had to replace a ceiling collapse in one of my houses. The AC unit went bad. Okay, there's $12,000. Another
mm-hmm,
AC unit goes bad in a couple months, $6, $7, $8,000. Like people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I got the cash flow. But yeah, cash flow goes by quickly once we have these big expenses due to, the assets, the houses.
So, and I know there's some analytical people that really do a lot for capex and maintenance, and they really set aside a lot of money. But that
Never
I'm not
heard it.
I'm not analytical enough to really like. I keep a nice cushion for each property,
Hmm.
and then we draw from that. That's just way simpler for me. But I mean, cash flow is great because you might get a couple $100, but if you getting people leave every year or every other year, and it costs $3,000 to turn that unit for carpet and paint,
Hmm.
that ate up the majority of your cash flow. And it's not that you didn't
Hmm.
benefit because you benefited from the depreciation the whole time, appreciation probably the whole time. Like there's a lot of benefits to owning real estate. But
Yeah.
I hate this whole like it bugs me to my core that people sell this like get rich quick off cash flow, because the actual cash flow is what you make on the back end when you own the property free and clear, or
Hmm.
you like for me a lot of the properties we bought 6 7 8 years ago, they're worth twice what they are now. So our mortgages are so low and our interest rates are so low that now we're that cash flow is actually fairly decent, but it didn't
Hmm.
start out that way, you know
Yeah.
and based on the market rents back then when you're buying it, and it's always pretty similar, the proportion. So anyways, it just bugs me a lot when people are sold that. And so to me it's like, if you're just getting into it for those reasons, never get in, or just do
Hmm.
a duplex and house hack like I did and dramatically lower your expenses and go travel a lot or whatever, do something what
Exactly.
you want. But like the real reason to get cash flow is to replicate what you're getting at your job, like I did, like you did, and then go accelerate from that job. Which I worked for one of the big three automakers, and where I grew up, like you get that job, you're set for life.
Hmm.
So I remember leaving everyone that is in my that my family members, like they're all like, you're crazy,
Yeah.
don't you dare leave that job, you're blah blah blah. But like you set yourself up to be able to leave that to then go do what you're passionate about, what gets
Hmm.
you up every day. But I don't love the idea of like selling the idea of just go live on a beach, because I just don't think that's actually repeatable and scalable and doable for the majority of people. I'm not saying there aren't people that haven't done it, but I just think it's a bill of sale that makes people a lot of money in courses and such. And it's probably not realistic, and you should probably be in it for different reasons. Yeah, so we've lived there for 5 years now. We bought it in January 2019. Kind of hard to believe it's been 5 years, but
Hmm.
so I bought that duplex. We've had great tenants, on the other side, and it's more of a little bit more of like a luxury style duplex because it's got a 1 acre yard. It's just kind of ideal for a family, and my wife and I have a daughter and and a dog and all that kind of stuff. So it's an ideal spot to kind of not feel like you're really house hacking. Like some of the other ones. Certainly, my 4 unit was not ideal for that, but so we did that and still own it. In December, we bought a traditional home that we're in the middle of remodeling. It's needs a lot of work, but it was a newer built house, so it was kind of destroyed. So we're excited about that and kind of doing something a little bit different. Because we're expanding our family and that sort of thing. And and then in the meantime, in between that, at duplex, we bought several. I mean, we flip probably about 8 to 10 a year. We keep a few of them too for rentals, single family. We have a few other apartment buildings. We have outdoor storage. We have our commercial office space for our brokerage. We have a warehouse for our construction company. Um, Now that we are a little bit more at scale, we look at ways to minimize our cost on the rehab. So we buy overstock windows. Then with each project, instead of buying the window to fit the opening, we take the window and if we have to redo the opening, we save way more money taking that window and reshaping it to that, because we're probably already doing the exterior anyways on most of
Hmm.
our flips. That's kind of what the warehouse space is. A lot of material we get on discount. We're always looking for that, and we do, for whatever reason. My wife and I personally buy pieces of land periodically. I have not personally built. That is something that at some point, but it's something that you have to be great at. You can't be good at. So I
Mhm.
love my job now. Um, Getting to build and develop. That's really what I've done for since 2019 is gone head deep and really understand and and look for opportunity. So we're a custom home builder. I work for a builder developer. Um, and that's been very rewarding. It's my most rewarding time spent because I really enjoy it, and I think that's probably a majority of what we do now.
That's amazing. I'm not sure how many you did before you just started your first, got your first investment property. Yeah, it went maybe
Uh,
south. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, people are stuck with analysis paralysis. Our audience is an audience of people who are just getting into real estate, maybe have one or two, but they're looking to scale and get more. And I always say you got to get your hands dirty. You got to actually go through the process because you're never going to just learn it through books.
I find typically there are like two styles of investors. I mean, obviously, probably some subsets of it, but like they typically lean more of the analytical type. Even if they don't have an analytical job when it comes to investing, it's very like, let's figure out the spreadsheets. Let's critique each deal. This doesn't work because of this and that and the other. And then there's the shoot first, aim later type people. And there's a lot of merit to both. And honestly, if you're going to have a quality company like I have, you need both. I would say my superpower, which is a blessing and a curse, is I'm a shoot first, aim later type. So with almost everything I've done, had I aimed first, I would have figured out reasons why I shouldn't do whatever it is what I was doing. For me, I'd rather do it and then figure it out. And then now I collect people like my accountant and bookkeeper and our I collect people that are analyzers that can really great at analyzing crunchy numbers and detail oriented and such. But that's not me. So I think number one, you have to figure out where you're at, because for me, I don't know how many books I read. I read a lot, but I could have read 1,000 books, and that first deal that was a proof of concept eclipsed all of the books I ever read.
Hmm.
I could have never read enough books to figure out what I figured out with that one deal. Um, and then the next one, the same thing, and the next one, the same thing. Then you start to get really confident and comfortable with yourself. And so I think that's the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out which side of the aisle you are. Are you analytical? Are you a shoot first, figure it out, hands on type person? Um, and that's what allowed me to just jump in and figure it out. It came with a lot of bumps and bruises that an analytical person might have been able to avoid. I have an understanding now. Do I understand what the levers are, what's working now, what isn't working now? But I think you just have to figure out who you are, and then if you're an analytical person, then just double down on getting a very conservative base hit. If
Hmm.
you're a jump in person, evaluate what your risk level is. A lot of the less expensive houses or properties now, or investment properties now, they come with a significant issue. No one else wants for the most part. So you have to be a little bit more cautious, I guess, if you're going for your first ones a little bit more. But that's why, to me, man, like if you can really say 50 years or whatever that number is, but like I'm going to do this to me, it's like I'm doing this for 50 years, and maybe I don't, the things I don't like, I'll shed off. The things I do like, I'll double down on. But like I'm going to do a variation of what I'm doing today for 50 years.
Hmm.
And if you can truly say that, then start off with that conservative base hit. That's the proof of concept. That's the foundation to you going to whatever it is that's next.
As a new investor, let's say someone's a new investor, they want to get that first property. I'm still a huge believer house hacking is the best first step.
Yeah, so I mean, different people are at different stages of life, and I don't know what the bulk of the audience is here. Um, I trust me, I fully understand the challenges of house hacking with a family. So if anyone ever
Hmm.
wants to reach out about that, I know my wife was on the podcast several times. The Phi couple, were on with us. We did like a sit down with his wife and my wife, and we all talked about it. I can't remember what episode that was, but like, so if people are in that stage of life, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's difficult to get spouse on board. So maybe that's a hiccup. But if you're not in that stage and you have the ability to house hack, man, take advantage of it. Especially if you're
Hmm.
somebody younger. Like if I was talking to myself at 20 right now, um, do it now. Like I remember thinking at somewhere in my early 20s, like, man, I got this small window to do this before I have kids and all this. I'd say that I had no idea what I was talking about. there is, it is, man, having a kid, it consumes. It's the greatest thing I've ever happened to me is having my daughter, but it's all consuming. Having children is the greatest joy and the greatest challenge that anyone has. Um, and if you're blessed to be listening to this before that day has come for you and you have ambitions to do that, I can't express enough how thankful I am to myself for those nights that I mean, I remember like probably, December 31st, 2014, going into December 1st or January 1st, December 31st, 2014, January 1st, 2015. I remember that night. I was putting backsplash on the flip that was taking forever for me. And all my friends, were doing whatever, going out, and I was single and all this. And I remember putting a poster up. I honestly have chills right now. Just this is the first time I've thought about this in a long time, but I put a poster up of like, myself and having kids and stuff. And I get people, maybe that's not ambition for you, but for me, that was always a driver for me. And I said, man, like, I'm not going out tonight, because of this. Like, I'm going to set them up.
Mm.
And then I had other little things for other decisions I did in my life. But like, you know, right now, I would not be able to do half the things that I did back then because of the time constraints and the commitments and the things that I love doing as a father. Um, and so it just has like a, whatever it means to whoever's out there, but like, if you're in that position, I get it, like the going out, having fun, yeah, doing whatever that everyone else is doing, all of our friend group, um, but man, like, without me having that, commitment or whatever the right word is there, I wouldn't be who I am today. And there are a lot of things I could say about that, but it was the best thing I ever did.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. Like, I'm getting flashbacks of, yeah, those late nights. Everyone's looking at you like you're crazy. Maybe your own family's looking at you like, dude, you're an idiot. Stick with your amazing
Yeah.
job that you have. And so, actually, I want to switch to this question that I had. Someone's maybe taking a lot of L's right now, or they're just scared to jump in. What would you say to that person? What kind of motivation would you give to them?
The wisdom I have now is I always ask questions first. So I don't like blanket statements because everyone's at different, positions in life. And I feel like, in some ways, I mean, I have a lot of growth to do for myself, but, a lot of wisdom. I've gained a lot of wisdom. Getting married was one of those steps, and having a kid were two, probably the most, um, personal growth I've ever experienced, because
Mm,
they take a level of commitment out of yourself, and you have to raise the whole bar, compared to who you were as a person. So I guess I would love to know where that person is, number one, in their
mhm,
life, and then number two, I'd love to tell them whatever that goal is, whatever it is that you're pushing towards, whatever you want to do, whether it's, I'm in my early 20s, like, Brad LaBrie was back in the day, and I don't have a kid, I don't have that significant other or anything like that, but I know that that's on the horizon. I know I'm gonna, that's an ambition of mine. um it's worth fighting for,
mhm,
and I took an L. I took a lot of L's. um for anyone that grew up in kind of a rural area where, the mantra was dudes have trucks, and you accumulate things like snowmobiles and RVs and all this kind of stuff. Like, that was me too, and I put down a lot. It felt like a lot, at the time. It's not, in retrospect, it's not, but like, I put down a lot of things to for that goal of, I want to do this for 50 years. I want to retire, or not even retire. I want to get out of the corporate job that I'm in, and I want to be a mover and a shaker. And it started out right probably where everyone here is listening at is, I don't have money, I don't have a great job, I don't have whatever, I don't have a rich uncle or a rich dad that's going to grant me the money. Um, but I have this. I have the ability to have the discipline to sell off all those worldly or appealing things all my friends had. Like, I sold I sold 3 trucks. I mean, I went cold turkey. I sold all my trucks. I had this fifth wheel because we'd go to, whatever events with family. I sold it all. I bought this piece of crap Cobalt, and and I drove that thing for like 5 years. And everyone, I was working, like I said, at General Motors, and and everyone would make fun of me, like, you work at General Motors, you drive this piece of crap or whatever. But like, there are just so many points in my life where I can point to that was like, this is the discipline that allowed me to get here. And it
Mm,
wasn't really anything magical about any of those things, whether it was the New Year's Eve, and not going out, or driving a crappy car. I could point to a lot of people that always drove nice cars or always went out and still are successful. But for me personally, and everyone has to identify what this is for them. For me personally, it took me cutting off that part of my life, cutting off going out to the bar with my friends, which I was never an alcoholic. It was never it was never anything like that. But it was like I was hanging around, and some of these people are still, vague friends or whatever. But I was hanging around these people that all they want to do is they want to talk about women. They wanted to get drunk, or at least, go have a bar and go try to hook up with somebody or whatever, whatever it was. And if I didn't remove myself from that, I could still, have casual friendships with people like that. But if I didn't remove myself from that, I was going to have a part of me that was going to be stuck there, and I could never actually grow to who I needed to become.
mm,
And so I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. It's a little bit off from what you actually asked. That's who I am, and that's what I was able to do. But right now is no different. If not, maybe even, I don't know. This might be tongue in cheek, but I think it's even maybe simpler now to start, and if you have the 50-year horizon, because I just think there's more resources. I think there's more people willing to help. I think there's more money out there than ever before. So anyways, I'll we'll get on to something else, but I just be introspective. I'd love to chat with anyone out there that's, that's at a particular spot, and just figure out who are you? What is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to double down on? If you're taking a lot of L's, I get it. I've been there. I've taken a lot of L's myself.
mhm,
Losing 15 grand when I was 20 years old was every penny I had. I mean, that was a huge L to me. There are several, I could point to several other different things, but like, I know what that's like. And I know how to persist through it anyway. And you have to, I got burnt out with all the goal setting type people out there, all the fluff stuff. So I don't really even like to, but like, to me, you have to have big 50-year goals. Not even like big, like I want to own 1,000 units. Like big, like I want my kid to say, Bradley was the real deal. He wasn't just somebody that flaked in and tried to make a couple bucks. Like that's a big goal to me. I want to be a mover and shaker for the next 50 years, and I want to set my family up for something that I wasn't set up for. And then I want to make sure that the next 6 months, I'm able to buy this flip or whatever it was at the small period of time.
mhm.
So anyways, hopefully that helps somebody.
No, this is so good. And that's a mic drop right there, man. At the end of the day, I know there's going to be so many people that listen to this and they're going to relate to your story. Because, like you said, everyone's going through a different journey and everyone's story is different. And someone's going to pick up on what you said and be like, man, can't wait to reach out to them. So, with that being said, how do people find you? How do people get in contact and reach out?
Yeah. You know, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You can always reach out in DM or whatever. Bradley LaBrie, I think on both. House hacking success. We need to get more involved with that. I've been so busy that it's been challenging to make that a priority. But Drew Klingler, my partner, still runs that full time, and we've made a attempt to stay consistent at that, and we'll hopefully do that this year.
Bring it
But
back,
reach
baby.
out,
Come on.
yeah. But reach out. Any questions? I love helping. There have been many people that have reached out, and I've shared phone number and gotten on phone calls with, and a lot of those have called me back years later, and I'd forgot we even talked about, and they not even anything that I did or shared, but it's just having somebody that I think is I hate fluff more than anything in the world. Comes from growing up in a construction family. Like I like real deals. I like people that do what they say they're going to do and don't just talk about it. And so that's the kind of person that you get in talking to somebody like me. And I'll just shoot you straight. Sometimes you just gotta suck it up. That's what I used to tell myself. Just suck it up. Like I don't know why it was so difficult for me that New Year's Eve, but I'll never forget it. Because it
Mm,
really was. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Wanting to go out, FOMO, whatever it is. But I just tell myself, suck it up, man, suck it up. So, mm,
awesome. Well, you become who you surround yourself with. That's our Growth House motto. I'm honored to actually connect with you now. Honestly, it's an honor. Jesse Ray, Growth House Podcast. We're out.